Hey, I'm live on YouTube. Let me get my IGTV stream going, and then we will start live studio stream. Hey, I'm live on YouTube. Wait. I have to. I have YouTube open on my browser, and there's a delay, so I need to just close that window. I've done this once before and it was problematic, but I'm not live on Instagram, so hang on. I think I have to restart. I always feel like I am completely scattered, and the beginning of this stream, like I wish that I could end it, or that I could begin it so smoothly. All right, Instagram Live is up and running, and YouTube is also up and running. I always feel like I'm so disjointed at the beginning of one of these live streams because I'm trying to stream on both platforms, and sometimes it doesn't connect on one or the other or both. It looks like I have a delay on YouTube, so I also have had questionable connectivity for the past, like today and yesterday, so I apologize if I just up and disappear halfway through this. Yesterday my students presented their first project in dye class, which was exciting, but I had some connectivity issues, which was difficult because I was the one hosting the Zoom. So anyway, and then, of course, I forgot to record it. You know, I try to record. We don't meet very often, so I try to record every time that we do meet. And then I just forgot to press the button, and the class ends, and I'm getting ready to upload the video, and there's no video. And I'm like, what? I see people are joining me on Instagram and also YouTube. Hi, welcome to this week's studio stream, February 4th, 2021. My name is Rachel Pollock. I am a theatrical crafts artisan, milliner, dyer, and a college professor at UNC-Chapel Hill. The theater where I normally work is still producing work, PlayMakers Repertory Company, but it's a lot of staged readings, so that's okay to happen over Zoom. And we had been gearing up for a filmed production. It was going to be a fairly substantial cast, and they were filming it in several different locations. Oh, hi, Arlene. Oh, you're in both. Awesome. Excellent. I love to have people show up on either one, or both. In this case, Arlene is checking us out from both sides. I see Kim just showed up over on Instagram, and also Trisha. Hi, friends. Today, I was unsure as to what I would work on up until like basically 10 minutes ago, because all of the projects that I had in process are, or that I have in process, are sort of in a holding pattern. Like they're at a stage where you need to stop work on them and let something else happen before you can proceed forward. The class that I'm teaching, which, as I said, they presented their first round of projects yesterday, is dyeing and surface design. And so those projects are very hard to work on in a studio stream sort of circumstance. They're, in fact, very hard for me to work on from my home studio. So mostly what I'm teaching is I'm not doing a lot of demonstrations other than theoretical. So I couldn't do a dye project today. My various hat projects are at a point where I need more information or more materials or whatever to go forward. So I decided that I have three things that I'm going to work on today. And the first one is right here, which only obliquely relates to the fact that I'm teaching a dye class this semester. This is an infinity scarf prototype that I have made from this color square sort of like a Pantone book sort of design of the print is, I didn't design it. I found it on spoonflower.com, the digital fabric printing company. That's located right here in Durham. And I loved it because I'm a big fan of thematic dress. This will not be my only scarf that has a sort of a color guide theme to the print of it. But so I ordered this design, printed in this case on the organic cotton knit that they sell, which is a fabric that I won't say I've never ordered it. I think we ordered it once for a potential PlayMakers costume fabric years ago. And we didn't wind up going with it. So I only knew it from this small, I think we ordered a fat quarter for a test of the design that we had printed. And so when I ordered this is a half a yard of this textile. My intent was to make an infinity scarf out of it. It is a scarf style I own many of, like this dyed shibori fabric, or not shibori, this dyed kimono fabric here. Shibori is a lesson I've been programming on the class site, so that's stuck in my head. But I wanted to try an infinity scarf out of their organic cotton knit to just see what I thought of the hand of it and whether it drapes nicely in this configuration of scarf. And so I sewed this on the machine into this tube. If you're unfamiliar with what an infinity scarf looks like, this one is complete. And this one, this does relate to my dye class. So if any of my students are here, this is topical. So this infinity scarf that I was just wearing today to cover my neck because it's kind of chilly is made from a silk brocade, which I'll put it up very close to the camera so maybe you can see the pattern that's woven into it, because this is wound up a very complex piece of textile. So it's got a woven brocade pattern, well, I guess more of a jacquard actually, pattern in it that has these little squares and grids and areas of openness. And then the original piece, this came from a donation that we received at work. It came from a kimono shop in Japan where they they hand stitched kimonos. And this was a box of kimono that had been cut out and partially assembled or just cut out into the right shapes. So for every textile print or weave design that we got, there would be like two pieces that are the front of the kimono, one large piece that's the back, two weirdly angle cut shapes that are the fold over in the front, and then two long one piece sleeve pieces. So you got a pretty substantial amount of fabric, but it wasn't all continuous yardage, and it had already been cut, so there were raw edges. But we took it because in costume production, there are often projects that you do where you don't need continuous yardage. I mean, none of this stuff could you make like a giant skirt out of, but you could. There were some that were wool even. They were a wool brocade weight for heavier kimono, and those we put aside because you could tailor a short jacket out of them. You only need the width of each pattern piece. This is all a long digression to say that this infinity scarf, which is completed at this point, is made from that silk that in its original circumstance it was very light peach and yellow mottled dyed. So I assume that at the factory or at the kimono shop, when they dyed it, they laid it, this is how I would do it. I would lay it out and, splotch on areas of the peach and drizzle on areas of the yellow and let the dye process, and then that's your yardage. So I over dyed this with a bright teal, more like a peacock blue, like a very bright, vibrant blue. And it was interesting when it came out of the dye bath, because if you look at it, these areas that are this bright peacock blue, those are the areas that used to be the light peach color. It's like it just obliterated any evidence of the peach having been there. But then you see these areas where it's yellow, or where it's green, and that's where it was yellow. And the yellow really did interact with the blue dye to make it this interesting sort of watercolory teal green pattern. And you sew these in a long tube, and then you turn it inside out through itself and sew most of the seam of the right side to right side. And then the area that you leave open, you turn it inside out through itself, and you get a sort of a donut, one of these infinity scarves, which is a long explanation for what I'm at the process, at the stage in the, can't speak today. I'm at the stage of the process where I have machine sewn the long tube of the fabric and pulled it mostly inside out through itself, stitched most of that seam by machine, and I now have, if you see here, this little piece here where there's yellow quilt pins, yellow head quilt pins. This is had about this much of the distance that is still open. I've pinned it closed, that I need to slip stitch in order to complete this, and then I will have my prototype of what an infinity scarf out of the Spoonflower organic cotton knit is like. I see someone is asking, eyesight issues. I'm going to have to get up on my knees here and see what this comment is on Instagram. And I see that it's Kim. Kim says, maybe the blue dye neutralized the peach color because it's there's no contrast here. Somebody needs to say something else. Somebody else has just joined. Hello. Neutralized because it is a complementary color. That's correct. Yeah, because peach is sort of like a very light orange. And if you think about the color wheel, or if you know what the color wheel is, you know, you have primary colors, red, yellow, blue. You have secondary colors, purple, green, orange. And complementary colors are opposite each other on that color wheel. So blue being a primary color, its opposite is orange, which is a secondary color. And as Kim pointed out in the Instagram chat, orange is the saturated version of peach, or peach is the desaturated version, a pastel version of orange. And yes, that is a good theory, that perhaps the blue, you would not see the orange come through. It would just gray out the blue a little bit. That is something that actually, that again, topical for dye class, that is something that we talked about. Well, I mean, I posted about in our class forum on a discussion just yesterday, I think, asking how you start with a jewel tone color, so a very saturated, pure version of that color, and turn it into a muted version of itself. And I used this exact example. So you're totally right on the money there, Kim. We were talking about a green and how to take it from a jewel tone, like emerald green, into a little bit more muted, like as if it were a dusty version of itself. And I projected, you know, I don't have a dye facility here to demonstrate for my students, but I said I think if I were trying to mix that dye in the studio at work, because green's complement is red, that I would start with light shade of pink, and you know, at a certain point it will just make it a grayed out, ugly, brownish blob. But that would be where I would start, is adding the slightest pastel quantity of pink to the recipe. So when Kim says perhaps the reason that the blue stayed blue over top of the peach, that is why it seems very vibrant to me here in this version that it is in now. But knowing what I know about the dye that I used, I think it is actually an even more vibrant blue in a pure sense. Like if this had been white silk instead of the peach yellow mottled kimono fabric, if it had just been pure white, then it would have been such an electric blue, which I love blue, that would be fine, but that it seems very electric now, but it's actually been knocked back a bit by going over top of that peach section of the fabric. I need to find a way. So, okay, I have a couple of goals for my stream here in the new year. And one of them is that I want to find, well, I need to acquire. I don't need to find, I need to buy or convince Chris to buy for me, or, somehow I need to acquire tripods that can stand behind my work table, because currently my 2 cameras are mounted on clip mounts. So, there's a clamp that clamps onto the side of the work table and has the tripod comes up from it and the camera's on there. And the same is true for the one that holds my phone for Instagram. But they're attached to my work table, which right now, when what I'm doing is just slip stitching shut a infinity scarf, that is not a problem. But, oh, I see Athena has shown up. She's one of my students. It's not a problem if I'm not doing something very active, but the more active I am in the work that I'm doing, it jostles the cameras and we get this like weird vibratory effect that I find maddening after the fact. I mean, it doesn't affect me in the midst of the stream. It affects you because you're watching, but then I will go back and watch it after the fact, especially on YouTube, to add in things like end screens and any links in the description that I mentioned in the course of this stream, and it'll just piss me off. So I need to get at least 1, maybe 2 new camera tripods that can stand behind or beside of my work table. My other goal is to find a way to maybe duplicate. Maybe I have my Instagram live going on my phone, but I also have on a tablet. I'm logged into the stream and watching it so I can see the chat, because now you're far enough away, like when Kim said that about the complementary colors, she's far enough away that especially if there's not a good contrast between the print and what's behind it, I can't read what it says because my eyesight is so bad. And I'd love to find a way to bring that chat portion of the IGTV stream closer. It works fine on YouTube because they stream through Streamlabs software and they run the chat at a large text, or I can choose that it runs at a large enough text size that, like, Arlene commented in there and said, I'm in both places. And I can see it just fine. I don't even have to get up close to it. But like when you guys say stuff in IGTV chat, I feel bad because I have to like then stop everything and get up close, or maybe you're just chatting with each other and that would be lovely and cultivating of community and stuff. But I'd like to be able to participate and react to things that you say and answer questions that you have. So that's my other goal. Tripods and IGTV chat up close. Maybe it's just a case of getting a tablet. I need to investigate that further. So I've just slip stitched my prototype closed here. I hope that, well, I'll just try it on. How about that? I have one other, at least one other color guide scarf that I think I wore it in the studio stream last week, perhaps. Or maybe that was in a video that I shot for my class. Oh, this is good. This would actually be good for an outdoor, putting on a scarf and going out in the winter weather. This actually might be good for that as well. It's not too beefy. I normally will do those winter scarves out of like polar fleece or, something heavier. And this is like a mid-weight. It's kind of like t-shirt weight jersey, I suppose. So I could see myself wearing this just in daily life as a scarf when the weather is such that you would wear a scarf. But I also could see it being warm enough to wear. The upshot, though, is that this turns into a good infinity scarf, and the vibrancy of the print is nice. And I had kind of thought about this as a potential graduation gift for my third-year grad students, which, if any of you are watching the stream, either live or after the fact, maybe you'll get one of these. I don't like to settle on what I'm going to give people too far in advance of their graduation. But this year, 2 of them are currently serving as my teaching assistants on the digitization of the dye class. I normally don't have a teaching assistant, but they have very graciously agreed to, one of them is on site, just serving as like the things that I would do in a normal circumstance. Like, I'm going to mix up some soda ash solution. I'm not there to do it. And so Lauren Woods is one of the third-year grads, has agreed to do that and just sort of look after the dye shop, because she's serving as the current dyer for the show that we're producing at PlayMakers Repertory Company as part of her third-year show assignments, and that's great. And then Ellen Cornett's another third year, and she is helping me with looking at, once I get a lesson page programmed for the website for this class, she proofreads it, and all 3 of them have taken the class when I taught it 2 years ago. So she proofreads it, but also gives me feedback on like, oh, well, if you don't know what this means, then you might want to clarify this a little bit more. And, I've taught this class. I think I taught this class not in my very first year at UNC, but definitely the second one. So I believe this is the 8th time that I'm teaching this class. And it's definitely the first time I'm teaching it online. So it's possible that I will give these to our third-year grads. Oh, the third, this is a class of 3 this year. The third graduate student who's graduating this fall, or this spring, Erin Rogers, she did fine in dye class, but she's not one of my TAs this time. But she tends to wear a lot of bright rainbow colors in her personal fashion. And, like, I think she has rainbow striped tights, rainbow motif things. And so I know that she would love this because it just fits right into her wardrobe. So that now that I have determined from my prototype that makes a decent weight infinity scarf that can be very versatile, not just for the color guide sort of theme of the print, but the weight of the organic cotton knit. That's now a contender for a graduation gift. I like to give them something thematic to one of the craft classes that I teach them in the graduate program. And I used to give them, it's funny, I have it right here. I used to give them a dolly head, a canvas block, in their head size. And let me pull it off of here. I used to make these spinners, custom made. This one has some tooled, well, it's not, it's stamped, embossed leather that's meant to look like it's tooled on the top of it. And there's a cork pad on the bottom to keep them from sliding around too easily. So I used to give them a canvas block in their head size and a spinner. But then I realized after a couple of years worth of teaching that almost none of them go into millinery or even crafts. Like most of them become either managers, drapers, or tailors. And that's fine. That's great. That's what the program specializes in. But I realized that maybe this wasn't the best graduation gift for them, because it becomes kind of interesting home decor instead of a useful tool. So then I for the past few years, I've given them some type of sewing tool in a very fancy version of itself. So like a hand turned on a lathe, a turned seam ripper, or an awl, or a spiky wheel handle. And that has worked well, but it may be scarves this year. I'm pretty satisfied with how that prototype turned out. But I'll move on to the next thing that I am working on today. It's really sort of scattershot this week because, as I said, all of my projects are sort of in a holding pattern. And let me remove this thread, which it's green, but I was sewing an area of the scarf that was green, so it, and it's a slip stitch. You don't really see much of that at all if you do it properly. So I was kind of at a loss how to choose a color that would match a section of the rainbow. That the point is that it is a bunch of different colors. Using my favorite hand sewing thread here to thread up my needle, which I've mentioned this before in streams. This one, this is not Silamide brand. This is NBT Furrier waxed skein, but the principle is the same for all of these hand sewing threads, where you have a hank of it in here wrapped around this cardboard center, and then you cut it across this far end with scissors, and you get lengths of hand sewing thread that are exactly twice as long as this box. So particularly if, like me, you are someone who enjoys sewing with a double thread, it's extremely convenient. I am trying to, yes, first try. I'm getting better at this, like totally blind needle threading situation. I know somebody mentioned in a prior stream, I had a great suggestion for a needle threader that might be helpful with my vision impairment, and I will admit that I completely lost track of what that was. So if you are one of those folks who recommended a needle threader to me by like brand name or something, I have looked at a few of them, and so far I haven't found one that really speaks to me, but I'm sure it's out there. So I've threaded this up with a double thread of black, and what I'm going to be doing next, this is a very uninteresting project for the studio stream, but I guess it's worth noting that this is a thing that I do. This is a dress. It's very similar to the dress that I have on right now. It's in fact made by the same company, Peruvian Connections, which does these really often very intricate knitwear. Well, they do all different kinds of clothes, but their knitwear is specifically the knitting pattern of the clothes. There's either like, I'm not good with knitting terms because I suck at it. I can't do it. But when you have several different colors of yarn in a knit, and it creates a pattern, kind of like a brocade or a jacquard in a weave, but whatever that is, a multi-strand knit pattern, a lot of their stuff is like that. Or these dresses have, the ribbing orientation is engineered to be flatteringly conforming to your body, I guess. Like this dress, if if you can, it's hard to see because it's black, but it's got ribs going up and down, and then there are some that come at an angle at this area where you would normally have like a princess seam that goes down the body, and you might cut these panels on the bias to just draw the eye towards the waist in a flattering way. And that's what they have going on with the knit orientation and engineering of this dress. And this dress is one of my favorite dresses. I love it even more than this one that I'm wearing now because it has a little short mock turtleneck, so it's warmer in the winter even than this one is. It's one of my favorite dresses, and my parents gave it to me. My parents gave it to me as a gift back several years ago to celebrate the fact that at the time I had just signed with a literary agent, and we thought that I was on a trajectory to become like the next best-selling novelist. That never happens. Well, that rarely happens, and when you hear about it, when it happens, you do hear about it. And it, to the point that it seems like that is the way that writing goes, is that once you get an agent, then you just become a superstar. But in fact, several of the people that I went to grad school with, we all got agents around the same time, and most of us remain unpublished in terms of long form novel work, because it doesn't happen fast like that. But at the time that I was given this dress, I had big dreams about quick success in the publishing industry. And I pulled it out. I was going to wear it today. I pulled it out this morning with the intent of wearing it in today's stream, still not knowing what I was going to be doing and figuring, like, I guess I'm going to darn socks or something. And I noticed that it's not the side seam, because this is engineered to knit all in one piece. But where you would have a side seam, well, I'm lying. The sleeves are sewn into it, but the body of the dress is knit in one piece. And when I took it out this morning, I noticed that on one side, up the side, where a side seam would exist, that there were these weird holes and runs, and I was super upset and was like, okay, I have to figure out how to fix this because this is my favorite dress. And in fact, that is what I'm doing right now. Again, I don't think I can really illustrate it to you very well because I would need much brighter lights, I think, and much more sensitive cameras. I'm not sure. Like, it's so hard to photograph or illustrate detail on black fabric. And so you will have to believe me when I say that, well, I guess you might be able to see here on the back side of the dress, there is a strip of twill tape that I applied with stretch stitches down the channels of this dress has ribs, and down the valley of one of two of the ribs. I did a stretch stitch, which is it's the setting on your sewing machine that looks like a zigzag broken up into parts. So it's like stitch, 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 so that it will stretch out the zigzag orientation into a sort of a straight orientation if it gets stretched down the length of that seam, and theoretically it will not pop it. Now, I have made, the more stress that happens on the seam, the more likely it is that even a stretch stitch will fail. And in my own experience, is somewhat embarrassing. Well, it would be embarrassing if it happened when you were standing in front of me, but I'll own up to it. I make a lot of leggings, and unfortunately, sad to say, the primary way that those fail is they split right up the back of the crotch seam. Because as you get up and down, that's what takes the most strain in all directions, and at least the leggings I sew are of a 4-way stretch. So that's where it fails. And I thought when I first started making my own leggings, I thought I was thought I was serving myself well by stitching with a longer stitch length, and in fact, that is not true. The opposite is true. The shorter your stitch length, the better it will stretch, or the better that the stitches will hold and not split. But so I applied this twill tape on the back side of the knit fabric, and like I said, stretch stitched down 2 of the channels of the ribs. And now I'm going back and doing some darning stitches over the areas where we have large runs. It's so upsetting to me. I just love this dress so much, but I'm happy to be in a position to be able to fix it. And in fact, this kind of stabbed myself. In fact, this kind of darning of holes in knits and wovens is something that I frequently do. I don't know if darning your socks anymore is a common thing, but it's a thing that I do. And it's certainly when I was younger and in undergrad and well, who am I kidding? Certainly right up through my mid-30s, I was still of a financial state that I needed to prolong the life of my socks. So it wasn't just about saving favorite pieces of clothing, but about economy and making stuff last as long as it possibly can is the ideal. But I still, I mean, I could buy a new one of these dresses now. This is fine. But I don't want to. I love this one. So I'm darning it. And in this case, I decided to go with the twill tape instead of a piece of some kind of black knit fabric to be the stabilizer from the back, because I don't actually care about retaining stretch right here in this area of the garment. I don't think that is... I think if there happens to be the really sturdy stability of twill tape under there, that will be most successful at prolonging the life of this garment. But time will tell, I guess. And what I've just done now, so I darned it with the stretch stitch down these 2 channels, and then there's one area where, oh wow, I actually need another piece of twill tape, because the area where it's sort of running has jumped over a 3rd rib in the knit, and now I need to widen that support that's under there to darn it. The mending, I guess, particularly ornamental mending, is apparently making a big comeback. You know, hang on. I have to plug in my computer because the battery is quite low. So let me do that really quick. I thought that I had attached my battery, or I thought that I had plugged this in so that my battery would not drain during this stream, and I am mistaken. But, okay. Is it charging? No, it's not charging. Come on. Well, I might have to end my stream if my computer's gonna die here. Come on. All right, technical difficulties. Hang on a sec. Okay. Well, I guess I cannot get my what do you call it? I can't get my computer to plug into the power source, or to register that it's plugged into the power source. So it's possible that my YouTube stream will just disappear unexpectedly with no warning because my battery has died. But I'm still going on YouTube, so thank you for your patience with that. That was somewhat frustrating for me, and I'm sure all you did was stare at my empty seat. So I'm sure it was not very fun for you as well. So now I have darned my dress, and I have completed my prototype of my infinity scarf, which, let me toss that aside as well, because the third project that I had put aside to work on, if I made it this far, and I'm excited at my ability to judge a little better how much I can get done in a given stream, is you recall perhaps from the past 2 streams and definitely the video that went up on Monday that making felt feathers has been a pastime of mine for the past, I did it in I think the past 2 streams, because the first one was scraps of wool and fur felt and synthetic felt, and then the most recent stream I was talking about bamboo felt and was really excited about that because I'd had an inquiry on one of my earlier videos. Somebody had left a comment on YouTube about whether there was a animal-free alternative to wool felt, and I love that idea, but I didn't know the answer. I had done that video about cotton felt and how industrial felt from reclaimed cotton fibers is something that you can use for millinery, which I don't think you can see her anymore. Next to Zelda back here, Zelda's got this purple Homburg at an angle back there, and then next to her you can just sort of barely see Mavis, the other mannequin model, has this mottled blue, variegated heather blue, crumpled sort of 1940s hat on that I made in a stream about a month or so ago, and then I filmed a video on the pros and cons of wool felt versus cotton felt, because cotton felt nowadays is comprised of shredded and reclaimed cotton clothing, and that one is blue because blue jeans are a good source of that. So sometimes you will find cotton felt that is predominantly blue, and then other times it will be predominantly grayish white. It does not have remotely the same structural integrity that a wool felt has, and it's very easy to press your finger through it, so it's more delicate. It doesn't take blocking over with steam over a curve very well, but you can still use it as a millinery material. I made this really cool hat out of it to demonstrate that. And when this person asked in a comment on that earlier video what other options there were for animal-free felt millinery products, that just got me thinking about, well, I don't know the answer to that, but I'm going to research it. And long story short, I found a vendor on Etsy. There are probably more than one, but I found one who was selling this bamboo felt. It's actually, I believe it's 80% bamboo and 20% rayon. But either way, in both cases, rayon and bamboo are cellulose fibers, fabrics, and which means they come from plants. The raw material comes from plants that the felt is created from. And so that answered that person's question of what sort of animal-free felt options are out there. I was like, oh, bamboo felt is a great, I wonder how good that is. I wonder what the properties are. So I ordered some, and then the past couple of streams I've been working on these feathers. So that is my long-winded explanation for how now I have been thinking about how I'm going to, I think it was in a millinery Facebook group, Social Media for Milliners. It's a Facebook group run by a woman who is a milliner in the north of England. There are a lot of successful milliners in England and Australia. Millinery industry in both of those nations is much bigger than it is here in America, because I'm sure you've seen, people wear hats there, not every day on the street, but it is normal to show up at a wedding with a hat on and to go to the races. And here, I guess we have our, what is it, the Kentucky Derby and Preakness, and can't ever remember the other one, but the Triple Crown of horse racing. But that's really a wealthy person's sport, and it's also kind of just not my bag. So this what a digression. This woman in the north of England, successful milliner, and she runs this group on Facebook called Social Media for Milliners. And it's just like, I'm a member of it for tips and tricks on various things, but she asks every Friday, what have you been working on this week? And people post pictures of the hats they've been working on. And I posted the picture of my felt feathers my collection, this big pile that's in front of me here, which you can only see barely on YouTube, and you can't see it at all on Instagram Live. But I posted this picture of all of my feathers, and she responded saying, oh, those are so cool. I can't wait to see what you do with them. And at the time I was like, what do you mean what I do with them? Like, I had no plan when I began making them. I was just interested in exploring the material and comparing the wool felt to the full fur felt to the synthetic felt to now the bamboo felt. And I was like, wow, I was just going to put them in a box of this was going into the box of purple feathers. Like, I didn't have a plan. But then when I got to thinking about what would I do this week on the stream when I really have nothing to do in terms of what I might, like, I'm not filming anything for my class that I can share on this stream. I'm not creating anything for PlayMakers that I can share on this stream. Not because nothing's going on per se, but people aren't necessarily interested in rubber. Well, I can't rubberize shoes here at home, but it's all of those kinds of tasks which must be done that I do not mind doing, but they're certainly not the most interesting part of my job, and they're not necessarily anything that I think other people would be really gung-ho about learning about and watching. But I thought, well, I can do something with those feathers that I have now spent so much time creating. And I've pinned something out here on this head, which, if you can see, so I have this wire headband here, which I bought a set. Well, I don't want to say I bought a set. Chris bought a set, actually, because he's been growing his hair out since the beginning of the pandemic. So now he has when I'm pre-pandemic, he had very short hair, and it was very closely barbered at the back. Well, that has gone by the wayside, and his hair is now, it's not as long as mine, but, well, actually it might be as long as mine. And he bought a pack of these headbands with the intent of keeping his hair out of his face while he's in a meeting for work. In that period when it was too short to pull it into a ponytail or a man bun, and there were several different styles, and some of them there were 6 different headbands for different textures of hair, and I kept the ones that I thought would work decently in my hair. And so this is one of those headbands, and I was thinking I could create something kind of like a fascinator, some sort of miniature bit of decor that would get mounted on a headband like this and could be worn. So what I have pinned out here is this one giant gray feather, which that's one thing that it could be. Underneath this gray feather, you'll see here, this is a piece of that same twill tape that I used in the darning of my, hey Athena, she just joined us, and LJ Valentine, I think that's Laura Valentine, perhaps. I think she is somebody I've known for a long time, back in the days of IRC as a chat client. So thanks for joining. That's great. This twill tape is the same twill tape that I used to darn my dress. It's like about 1.25 inches wide, or actually it's more like 1.5 inches. Let me unpin it here and show you. I bought this twill tape back at the beginning of the pandemic, well, in the midst of the mask sewing madness that was happening there while the supply chain was so jacked up. And I bought this because when you fold it in half, it can finish the edge of a mask, and then you could sew down the length of one tie and then bind the top of the mask and then sew down the other length of the tie, and have 2 lengths of this twill tape that finish off those pleated style masks that I was making at the time for donation to healthcare workers, to dentists and veterinarians and farm workers, everybody that still was continuing to work in the worst of the pandemic's beginnings. And now I have 2 giant rolls of this stuff because the supply chain has resumed. It's now no problem to, like, I get served ads for masks on every social media there is, and it's like $5 for a pack of 5 from whatever. No longer do we need to bust our butts as textile artists sewing masks as fast as we possibly can. But so this bit of twill tape is going to be the base stabilizer for whatever. I'm going to take this headband off of here now that you've seen that as the finished idea. And I'm just going to pin this piece of twill tape back on the head so I get an idea of the footprint of the bottom of this thing, because the goal is I will attach various feathers to this piece of twill tape that then itself will be attached to perhaps this headband, perhaps a hair barrette or hair clip. We'll see how it is when I'm done. And I had kind of been thinking that maybe I could use multiple feathers in interesting ways. This is one of those purple bamboo feathers. Oops, that's not a pin. I have this burgundy feather. When I bought the bamboo felt, bought a half a yard of black and a half a yard of purple, because I like both of those colors in my own wardrobe. So I thought, well, if I do nothing else with them, maybe I'll just make myself something. And in fact, I have. There's 2 versions of this fantastic hat. This one and then the purple one. So, that's great. But when I bought those, they sent me this burgundy swatch and also, oh, here it is, a neon yellow. Well, not neon, it's more primary yellow, to just see what other colors are like. And this one has been helpful in determining whether I think that bamboo felt is blockable. And I do. I still have not conducted that with a experiment with a larger piece. I have a video scheduled for later in the month. I think it might be next month. I'm actually scheduling my channel, my YouTube channel, at least a month in advance. And so now I can release a schedule before the first Monday of the month that says this is what this month is going to bring, or this is the goal. I've only managed to do it for February so far, and I didn't have this idea in December, so I wasn't able to do it for January, but goals. I'm still, I don't think I like this burgundy. Let's take it off. Well, I don't mean to cast aspersions on the burgundy. It is just simply a color that I do not have in my wardrobe whatsoever. And if my goal in... Ooh, I want to take the purple off of here too, because I just found a black one that I think... Oh, this is good. This is really good. This black feather. This is one that I didn't cut any of the flues into it at all. So it's actually kind of more like a leaf almost. But I think I could get it. Well, I'm going to leave that up. And then oh, well, that's it. No, that's not. Millinery design, like on the farm like this, I find this really challenging. Because it's not something, in my life as a crafts artisan, you know, this is not something that is ever my responsibility. Usually this is the role of the designer to come up with these kinds of, oh, that's good. This, I really like this very sort of simplistic design. I don't know, you can't see it on, there you can see it better on YouTube. Where we just have two crossed feathers. Actually, I have a necklace with two crossed feathers that are quill pen feathers. And I think I would actually need to, if this is going to be my design for how I use these feathers in this fascinator concept, one of these feathers has a significant amount of flue clipped into it, and this other one has none clipped into it. So I think I would need to decide, aesthetically speaking, which one of these feathers I was going to go with and not juxtapose the two different styles. That seems kind of like a dubious aesthetic choice from a design perspective. But I like this a lot. Like I like this crossed feather design as an ornament that you might have on your head. I don't even want to say it's a hat so much as like, it's a borderline fascinator, I guess. But I might go with this. I will choose one of these designs, and maybe I'll make it into a thing. I'm coming to the end of the time when I'm going to do when my studio stream runs. I generally stop at 4 p.m. I do want to note that I will not be streaming next Thursday or the next Thursday. We are interviewing prospective students for the graduate program, and on both of those dates, we have booked someone to interview, and so I need to be present for that. But as a consolation, I suppose, I'm going to upload an extra video, so I won't be here for the stream next week, but there'll be two videos that week and the next week on the YouTube channel. So I will come back for a stream 3 weeks from now. I will have a live stream, and I will have actually probably already sewn this, and there will be plenty of other things for me to work on. I won't be, mending my dress and completing a scarf prototype like I did this week. But regardless, thank you so much for joining me. I have appreciated having the company here in my studio as I'm working on these various projects. And I hope that you have a good February. I'll see you at the end of it. And yeah, thank you for your time and attention and your patience with my crappy battery situation on YouTube. I'm going